The rain battered the pavement, each drop a reminder of the night Emma was cast out, her mother's voice still echoing. "You're no daughter of mine." At 17 she'd stood on that same porch, heart shattered, clutching a backpack as the door slammed shut. Now, 7 years later, Emma stood under the same sky, staring at the house that had once been home, wondering if love could ever mend what hate had broken. Emma's boots scuffed the wet sidewalk as she lingered across the street from the colonial-style house in Willow Creek, a small town nestled in upstate New York. The air smelled of damp leaves and nostalgia, a cruel mix for someone who'd spent years running from her past. At 24, Emma had built a life in Boston, tattoos on her arms, a job at a record store, a circle of friends who felt like family. But the ache for her mother, Diane, never faded. Diane, with her rigid beliefs and unyielding pride, had thrown Emma out the night she confessed she loved a girl. That girl was Lily, the one Emma hadn't seen since high school, the one who'd held her heart before it was torn apart. Emma's phone buzzed in her pocket, snapping her back to the present. A text from her friend Nate. "You sure about this? You don't owe her anything." She didn't reply. Instead, she adjusted her leather jacket, the one she'd bought to feel tougher than she was, and crossed the street. The house looked smaller than she remembered, its white paint peeling, the porch swing creaking in the wind. Her heart pounded as she climbed the steps, each one a memory of the life she'd lost. She knocked, half hoping no one would answer. The door opened and there stood Diane, older now, her dark hair streaked with gray, her eyes still sharp but softer, like they'd seen too much regret. "Emma!" Her voice trembled, a mix of shock and something Emma couldn't place, hope maybe or guilt. For a moment they just stared, the weight of 7 years hanging between them. "I'm not here to fight," Emma said, her voice steady despite the storm inside. I needed to see you." Diane stepped aside, gesturing for her to come in. The house smelled the same lavender and old wood, but the air felt heavy, like it held every word they'd never said. They sat in the living room, the same one where Emma used to do homework while Diane cooked dinner. Now it felt like a museum of their broken bond. Diane fidgeted with a coaster, her hands betraying her nerves. "I didn't think you'd come back," she said finally. "Not after everything." Emma's jaw tightened. "You made it clear I wasn't welcome." The words stung, but she didn't look away. She'd spent years rehearsing this moment, imagining every scenario, screaming, crying, walking away. But now, sitting across from her mother, she felt only a quiet resolve. She wasn't here to win an argument. She was here to understand. Diane's eyes dropped to her hands. "I was wrong," she whispered, so soft Emma almost missed it. "I was scared. I thought I was protecting you, but I lost you instead." The confession hung in the air, fragile and raw. Emma wanted to believe it, but trust was a bridge they'd burned long ago. Before she could respond, the doorbell rang, cutting through the tension like a knife. Diane frowned, glancing at the clock. "Who could that be?" she muttered, rising to answer it. Emma stayed rooted to the couch, her heart racing for reasons she couldn't name. She heard the door creak open, then a voice familiar, achingly so, like a song she hadn't heard in years. "Hi, Mrs. Harper. I'm Lily. I used to know Emma." Emma's breath caught. She stood, her legs unsteady, and moved toward the door. There, framed in the doorway, was Lily, older, but unmistakably her. Short black hair, warm brown eyes, a nervous smile that still made Emma's heart skip. The girl she'd loved at 16, the one she'd lost when her world fell apart, was standing in her mother's house. "Lily." Emma's voice broke, a mix of disbelief and longing. Lily's eyes met hers, and for a moment the world stopped. 7 years melted away, and it was just them, two girls who'd once dreamed of forever, now strangers with a shared past. Diane looked between them, confusion etched on her face. "You know each other?" she asked, her voice tight. Emma nodded, unable to tear her eyes from Lily. "She was everything," she said simply, the truth spilling out before she could stop it. Lily stepped inside, her presence filling the room with a warmth Emma had forgotten. "I heard you were back in town," Lily said, her voice soft but steady. "I couldn't stay away." She glanced at Diane, then back at Emma. "I needed to see you, to know you're okay." The room felt too small, the air too thick. Diane's face was unreadable, a storm of emotions brewing behind her eyes. Emma's heart pounded as she realized this moment wasn't just about her and her mother, it was about the love she'd fought for, the love she'd lost, and the chance to reclaim it. "I'm not okay," Emma admitted, her voice raw. "But I'm here. And so are you." She reached out, her fingers brushing Lily's, a spark of connection that felt like coming home. Diane watched, silent, as the past and present collided in her living room, forcing her to confront the choices that had torn her family apart. The silence stretched, taut as a wire, as Diane's gaze darted between Emma and Lily. The living room, once a place of routine and comfort, now felt like a stage where old wounds were laid bare. Emma's hand lingered near Lily's, the brief touch igniting memories of stolen moments, whispered promises in the school library, secret kisses behind the bleachers, the thrill of a love they thought could conquer anything. "Why are you here, Lily?" Diane's voice was sharp, not unkind but guarded, like she was bracing for a truth she wasn't ready to face. Emma flinched, the question echoing her own unspoken fears. Why was Lily here after all these years? Had she come to reopen old wounds, or was there something more? Lily didn't falter. She stood straighter, her brown eyes steady as they met Diane's. "I never stopped caring about Emma," she said, her voice clear despite the tremor in it. "When I heard she was back in Willow Creek, I had to come. I needed to know she was okay after everything." Her words hung heavy, a reminder of the night Diane had shattered her daughter's world. Emma's chest tightened. She remembered the last time she'd seen Lily, the night before her mother threw her out. They'd been in Lily's car, parked by the lake, the radio playing softly as they talked about running away together. But then Emma had gone home, confessed her truth, and everything unraveled. Lily had tried to reach her after, but Emma, drowning in shame and heartbreak, had pushed her away, moving to Boston to start over. She'd thought it was for the best. Now seeing Lily here, she wasn't so sure. "Everything," Diane repeated, her tone brittle. She turned to Emma, her eyes searching. "What does she mean, Emma? What happened after you left?" The question was a plea, a crack in the wall Diane had built around her heart. Emma took a deep breath, the weight of 7 years pressing down on her. "After you kicked me out, I had nowhere to go," she said, her voice steady but laced with pain. "I slept on friends' couches, worked odd jobs, tried to forget who I was because you made me feel like it was wrong. But I couldn't forget Lily. I couldn't forget what we had." Diane's face crumpled, guilt etching lines deeper than time ever could. I thought I was doing what was right," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The church, the town, everyone said it was a sin. I thought I could save you." "Save me?" Emma's voice rose, sharp and raw. "You broke me, Mom. You chose their rules over your own daughter." The words cut, but they were true, and Emma was done holding them back. She felt Lily's hand brush hers again, a quiet anchor in the storm. Lily stepped forward, her presence calm but unyielding. "Mrs. Harper, I don't know what you believe now, but Emma's not broken. She's strong, stronger than you know. And she's still your daughter." Her words were gentle, but they carried a weight that made Diane look away, her hands trembling. The room fell silent again, the only sound the patter of rain against the windows. Emma's mind raced, torn between the pain of her past and the flicker of hope Lily's presence ignited. She wanted to hate her mother, to walk away and never look back, but something in Diane's eyes, regret, maybe, or love buried too deep, kept her rooted. "I don't know how to fix this," Diane admitted, her voice cracking. "I don't know how to be your mother again." Emma's throat tightened. "You start by listening," she said. "By seeing me for who I am, not who you wanted me to be." She glanced at Lily, her heart swelling with a mix of fear and gratitude. "And by understanding that love isn't something you get to approve or deny. It's just there." Lily squeezed Emma's hand, a small gesture that felt like a lifeline. "I'm not here to cause trouble," Lily said, addressing Diane but keeping her eyes on Emma. "I just want Emma to have a chance at peace. With you, with herself." Diane nodded slowly, her face a mask of conflicting emotions. "I need time," she said finally. It's a lot." She looked at Emma, her eyes glistening. "But I don't want to lose you again." Emma didn't know if she could trust those words, but they were a start. She felt Lily's warmth beside her, a reminder that she wasn't alone anymore. The past was a scar, but maybe, just maybe, it could heal. Let's talk tomorrow, Emma said, her voice softer now. I'm staying at the inn downtown. If you want to try, you know where to find me. She turned to Lily, a silent question in her eyes. Lily nodded, a small smile breaking through the tension. As they stepped back into the rain, Emma felt a weight lift, not gone but lighter. Lily's hand found hers, and for the first time in years, Emma felt like she could breathe. The night stretched ahead, full of questions, but with Lily by her side, she felt ready to face them. The willow creaked and glowed softly against the night, its sign flickering as Emma and Lily walked through the drizzle to the small diner next door. Inside, the air was warm, thick with the scent of coffee and fried onions. They slid into a booth, the red vinyl creaking under them, and for a moment they just sat, the weight of the evening settling like dust. You didn't have to come, Emma said, her voice low as she stared at the menu she wasn't reading. After all this time, why now? Her hazel eyes flicked up to meet Lily's, searching for answers she wasn't sure she was ready for. Lily leaned back, her fingers tracing the edge of her coffee mug. I never stopped thinking about you, she said, her voice soft but steady. After you left, I tried to move on. College, a job, a life in Philly. But every time I saw someone with your smile, or heard a song we used to love, it was like you were still there. She paused, her brown eyes glistening. When I heard you were back, I couldn't let you face this alone. Emma's heart ached, a mix of gratitude and guilt. I pushed you away, she admitted. After Mom kicked me out, I was so ashamed. I thought you deserved better than someone who couldn't even keep a home. She looked down, her fingers twisting the napkin in her lap. I'm sorry. Lily reached across the table, her hand covering Emma's. You don't owe me an apology, she said firmly. You were a kid, Emma. We both were. What your mom did, it wasn't your fault. Her touch was warm, grounding, and Emma felt a tear slip down her cheek before she could stop it. They ordered food, burgers and fries, the kind of meal they used to share after school, and talked, the conversation flowing like a river finding its course again. Lily was a graphic designer now, her work full of color and life just like her. Emma shared stories of Boston, the music scene, the friends who'd become her chosen family. But beneath the catching up, there was a current of something deeper, something unspoken. Do you ever think about us? Emma asked suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper. The question hung between them, raw and vulnerable. Lily's smile faded, replaced by a look so intense it made Emma's breath catch. Every day, Lily said, her voice thick with emotion. I loved you then, Emma. And I think I still do. The words were a spark, igniting something in Emma she'd thought was long gone. She wanted to reach out, to pull Lily close, but fear held her back. What if this was just a moment, fleeting and fragile? Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from Diane. Can we meet tomorrow? I want to try. Emma stared at the screen, her heart torn between hope and skepticism. She showed it to Lily, who nodded encouragingly. It's a start, Lily said. She's reaching out. That's more than you had yesterday. They left the diner, the rain having slowed to a mist. The town was quiet, the streets empty except for the occasional car. Emma felt Lily's presence beside her, steady and sure, and it gave her courage. Will you stay? She asked, her voice small. I mean, in town. For a bit. Lily smiled, her eyes warm. I'm not going anywhere, she said. They walked to the inn, their shoulders brushing, the silence between them comfortable now. At the door to Emma's room, Lily hesitated, then leaned in, her lips brushing Emma's cheek. It was soft, tentative, but it sent a jolt through Emma's entire body. Get some sleep, Lily said, her voice teasing but kind. We've got a big day tomorrow. Emma watched her walk down the hall to her own room, her heart pounding with a hope she hadn't felt in years. The next morning, Emma met Diane at a small cafe on Main Street. The air was crisp, the sky a clear blue that felt like a promise. Diane looked nervous, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. I've been thinking, she said, her voice unsteady. About what you said. About who you are. She paused, her eyes meeting Emma's. I don't understand everything, but I want to try. I want to know you again. Emma's throat tightened. It's not going to be easy, she said. You hurt me, Mom. A lot. Diane nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. But I'm here, Emma continued. And I'm willing to try too. They talked for hours, the conversation halting at times, raw and honest. Diane admitted her fears, her regrets, the way her faith had once blinded her. Emma shared her pain, her resilience, the life she'd built despite it all. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a beginning. As Emma left the cafe, she saw Lily waiting across the street, leaning against a lamppost with a smile that made her heart skip. "How'd it go?" Lily asked, falling into step beside her. "Better than I expected," Emma said, her voice lighter now. "She's trying. That's something." Lily nodded, her hand finding Emma's as they walked. The touch was simple, but it felt like a vow, a promise that whatever came next, they'd face it together. The days in Willow Creek blurred into a fragile rhythm of healing. Emma and Diane met daily, sometimes at the cafe, sometimes at the house, each conversation a step toward understanding. It wasn't perfect. Diane stumbled over words, her old beliefs clashing with her desire to reconnect. Emma wrestled with anger, the memories of rejection still sharp. But they kept trying, driven by a love neither could fully abandon. Lily was a constant, her presence a quiet strength. She and Emma spent evenings exploring the town, revisiting old haunts, the park where they'd once carved their initials into a tree, the ice cream shop where they'd shared their first date. Each moment was a thread stitching together the pieces of who they'd been and who they were becoming. Emma felt herself falling for Lily again, or maybe she'd never stopped. The thought was exhilarating and terrifying. One evening, as they sat on a bench by the lake, the water reflecting the sunset's pinks and oranges, Emma turned to Lily. "What are we doing?" she asked, her voice soft but urgent. "You and me. Is this real?" Lily's eyes softened, her hand finding Emma's. "It's as real as you want it to be," she said. "I'm here, Emma. I'm not running away this time." She leaned in and their lips met, a kiss that was both familiar and new, full of promise and the weight of years apart. Emma felt her fears melt, replaced by a certainty she hadn't known she could feel. But not everything was so simple. At their next meeting, Diane brought up Lily, her tone cautious but curious. "She seems important to you," she said, stirring her coffee. "I didn't know. Back then. I didn't know she was the one you loved." Emma nodded, her heart racing. "She was," she said. "And she still is." The admission felt like a leap, but Diane didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned forward, her eyes searching Emma's. "Tell me about her," Diane said, her voice gentle. It was the first time she'd shown real interest, and Emma felt a spark of hope. She talked about Lily, her kindness, her creativity, the way she made Emma feel seen. Diane listened, her expression softening, and for the first time, Emma saw a glimpse of the mother she'd once known. That night, Emma invited Lily to dinner at Diane's house. It was a risk, a test of the fragile bridge they were building. The dining room was quiet at first, the clink of silverware loud against the tension. But Lily, ever the peacemaker, broke the ice with stories of her work, her travels, her love for Willow Creek's quirky charm. Diane smiled, even laughed, and Emma felt a warmth she hadn't expected. After dinner, as they washed dishes together, Diane turned to Emma. "I'm trying to understand," she said quietly. "I don't know if I'll ever fully get it, but I see how happy she makes you. That matters." It wasn't acceptance, not entirely, but it was a step, and Emma clung to it. The weeks passed, and Emma found herself settling into Willow Creek in a way she hadn't planned. She and Lily rented a small apartment above the bookstore, a space filled with light and possibility. They decorated it with thrift store finds, their laughter echoing as they argued over where to hang Lily's paintings. Emma started working at the local music shop, her days filled with vinyl records and the hum of guitars. Diane visited often, bringing homemade cookies or stories from her own youth, slowly weaving herself back into Emma's life. But the past wasn't done with them. One afternoon, Emma received a letter from the church Diane still attended, a place that had once shaped her mother's rejection. It was an invitation to a community meeting, but the words were laced with judgment, a reminder of the town's lingering prejudice. Emma's heart sank, the old wounds reopening. She showed the letter to Lily, who read it with a frown. "You don't have to go," Lily said, her voice firm. "You don't owe them anything." But Emma shook her head. "I need to face this," she said. "Not for them. For me." The meeting was held in the church basement, the air thick with the scent of coffee and old hymnals. Emma stood at the back, Lily by her side, as voices debated community values and traditional families. When Emma's name came up, whispered with pity and disdain, she felt Lily's hand tighten around hers. She stepped forward, her voice steady despite the pounding in her chest. "I'm Emma Harper," she said, her words cutting through the murmurs. "I grew up here. I loved someone and I was punished for it. But I'm not ashamed anymore. I'm here, I'm happy, and I'm not going anywhere." The room fell silent, and Emma felt Lily's pride radiating beside her. Diane, sitting near the front, turned to look at her daughter, her eyes shining with something new respect. The church meeting marked a turning point. Emma's words, raw and unapologetic, rippled through Willow Creek, stirring whispers and slowly change. Some turned away, clinging to old beliefs, but others reached out, neighbors who'd once judged her, old classmates who apologized for their silence. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress, and Emma felt a weight lift, like she'd finally claimed her place in the world. Diane's transformation was slower but real. She started attending a new church, one that preached love over judgment, and invited Emma and Lily to join her one Sunday. They went, hesitant at first, but the warmth of the congregation surprised them. Diane introduced them proudly, her voice steady as she called Emma her daughter and Lily her partner. The word partner felt like a gift, a sign of how far they'd come. Emma and Lily's life together bloomed. Their apartment became a haven, filled with music, art, and late-night talks about the future. Emma started writing songs again, her guitar a bridge between her past and present. Lily's designs were gaining attention, her work featured in a local gallery. They were building something real, something lasting, and every touch, every shared glance, felt like a promise kept. One spring evening, a year after Emma's return, Diane hosted a barbecue in her backyard. The air was warm, scented with blooming lilacs and grilling burgers. Friends from town mingled with Emma's Boston crew, laughter mixing with the strum of a guitar. Diane pulled Emma aside, her eyes soft but serious. "I'm proud of you," Diane said, her voice thick with emotion. "I was wrong, Emma, about so many things. But seeing you now with Lily, with this life you've built, I'm so grateful you gave me a chance to be part of it." She hugged Emma, a real hug, the kind they hadn't shared since Emma was a child. Tears stung Emma's eyes as she hugged her back, feeling the pieces of their broken bond begin to mend. Lily joined them, slipping her arm around Emma's waist. "You two okay?" she asked, her smile teasing but warm. Diane laughed, wiping her eyes. "More than okay," she said. "I'm learning." She reached out, squeezing Lily's shoulder, a gesture that spoke louder than words. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink, Emma looked around at her mother, her partner, the life she'd fought for. The pain of the past hadn't vanished, but it no longer defined her. She'd been cast out, broken, but she'd rebuilt herself stronger with love as her foundation. Lily leaned in, her lips brushing Emma's ear. "Happy," she whispered. Emma nodded, her heart full. "More than I ever thought I could be," she said, and kissed her, soft and sure, under the fading light. The barbecue stretched into the night, stories and laughter weaving a tapestry of connection. Emma stood with Lily, their hands entwined, and realized this was the ending she'd never dared to dream of, not perfect, but real. A family rebuilt, a love reclaimed, and a future wide open with possibility. She thought back to that rainy night, standing outside her mother's house, afraid to knock. She'd been so sure the past would swallow her whole. But now, with Lily's hand in hers and Diane's laughter in the air, Emma knew she'd been wrong. The past wasn't a cage. It was a story, one she'd rewritten with courage, love, and the stubborn belief that everyone deserves a chance to come home. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.